Hello, and welcome to the Palma Pioneer Pantry. My name is Marin, and in this video we're going to go over week 2 of the 3 Rivers Pantry Challenge. As I said last week, filming all of our meals just doesn't work for our family, so today you will see the dinners from each night of the week. We did end up having to go to the grocery store for the first time this week. Other than that, we're doing really well with the Pantry Challenge, so at the end of the video I will show you what we got and why. And let's get started with Sunday, January 8th.
For dinner on Sunday, I made chicken soup. I added part of a quart of turkey broth that I had in the fridge, 2 pints of canned chicken, a can of mixed veggies, and a can of corn. For all of those, I just poured the whole can, liquid and all, right into the pot. For seasoning, I added pepper, a little bit of salt, garlic, and parsley. I mixed it up, broke up the chicken a little bit, and left it on the stove to heat through. We had the soup with homemade bread and butter. For dinner on Monday, we needed to use up some leftover beans, so we had quesadillas and beans. On Tuesday, I wanted something quick after I got home from work, so I made salmon in the Instant Pot with a little bit of lemon juice, lemon pepper, and butter. I also tried to rehydrate some mashed potatoes that I had dehydrated a while ago. They were okay, but I need to work on that texture. On Wednesday, I made a dinner that was suggested by Peggy at Hidden Haven Homestead. She suggested chicken stir-fry, but didn't give a specific recipe, and someone else had recommended teriyaki chicken, so I made a chicken teriyaki stir-fry. I used a bag of frozen pepper stir-fry and 2 pints of canned chicken. To start, I sprayed some avocado oil in my pan and then started heating it up. Then I added the frozen vegetables and put a lid on the pan to let them steam for a few minutes. Once the veggies had softened up, I added some salt and pepper and mixed the veggies around to make sure I'd broken up any of the bigger pieces of pepper. I'm in the middle of reorganizing our kitchen right now, so it's kind of a mess. I let the veggies cook for a little bit longer, then I added both pints of chicken. I saved the broth in a different jar for another meal later this week. Then I broke up the chicken with my spatula, mixed it in with the veggies, and put the lid back on to let it cook some more. Then I found the little bit of teriyaki sauce I had left in the fridge and added most of that to the pan. Then I mixed it in and put the lid back on to keep it hot until we were ready to serve dinner. Here's the finished chicken teriyaki stir fry. We ate it with rice that I cooked in the Instant Pot. For dinner on Thursday, we had tacos.
So today is Friday, and I thought today's dinner was a little bit extra special, so I wanted to talk a little bit about it. As I've said before, my favorite food is Kraft macaroni and cheese, and I have never found a homemade macaroni and cheese that even came close. How much I enjoyed it. So I know the Kraft macaroni and cheese is not the best for you, so I am on a journey to find a recipe that I like as much. It doesn't have to taste just like it. I want it to like it just as much. So today we are trying a recipe, and I will link it down in the description below. And I'm following the recipe almost exactly. I'm leaving out a little bit of the spices. Just because, you know, it's me. So we're going to try this. We're going to get started. First thing that the recipe calls for, I'm a little leery of, but hey, we're following the recipe, is it says to put 2 cups of chicken broth and 2 cups of milk in a pot. So I've got some leftover chicken broth from some canned chicken we used earlier this week. I did add a little bit of water to it because I didn't have quite 2 cups. And then I've got my milk. And I'm going to, and then it says add the pasta just right away. Actually, I think I was supposed to boil it first. So I am going to bring it up to a boil first. And then I will add the pasta. Yeah, you don't cook the pasta separately in this, which I'm very unsure about, but we'll see. Following the recipe, trusting the process. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil. I'll add the pasta. It says it sometimes takes 10 to 15 minutes to cook the pasta all the way through, and it might take me a little bit longer because I don't like my pasta completely al dente. So I'll cook this, and then I'll bring you back when we start adding the cheese a little bit later. Okay, so I ended up adding almost 1.5 cups more water to this because I like my pasta a little bit more soft. It's still not as soft as I would like it, but I figure it will continue cooking over time. But I have almost no liquid left, even with the 1.5 cups of water that I added. So I'm going to add the rest of the milk and add the cheese. I think it said to turn the heat down. I don't know for sure. But I'm going to add the rest of the milk and the cheese and start melting that down. Oh, I guess I should add the salt and pepper first. It also calls for, I think, cayenne pepper, like a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm not going to add that. They're lucky I'm adding the black pepper. Mac and cheese doesn't have pepper in it. Anyway, so I've only had this cream cheese out since right before I started cooking the pasta. But it's still pretty hard, so I'm going to add that first. The recipe did not specify room temperature cream cheese. So hopefully this is okay. Sorry for banging. Stir that in. And it also doesn't say that you're supposed to add the cheese just a little bit at a time. So I'm gonna do half at a time because I'm just a little bit worried about it. I am using a fairly large pot, like there's plenty of space in this pot, but as I've said before, I'm not confident in my cooking abilities. I don't have a lot of experience, and mac and cheese is my favorite food, and I want it to turn out well. A little bit. I really thought that in order to get a nice smooth sauce, it would be better to make the pasta and the sauce separately. So like if this doesn't work out, that's what I'll try next. But we'll see. Because I have made cheese sauces before. I've just made them where you make a roux and then you add cheese to it. And I never perfected that either. But it seems like I could do this sauce, which doesn't require a roux, and then add it to the pasta, and maybe that would make it, smoother? I don't know. But then maybe it wouldn't cling to the pasta as well. So, we'll see. The cheese is melting fairly well. There's still some clumps in there. I'm also a little surprised that this recipe doesn't call for any butter. But maybe the cream cheese makes up for that. So that's another thing that if this isn't exactly what I hope it will be, maybe I will add some butter to the recipe. But this is a fairly simple recipe as far as ingredients go, and so I feel like it's a good place to start. And I like that it uses chicken broth because chicken broth's really good for you, especially homemade bone broth. And so if I can use it in something that I like so much, I would like that. Well, I think it's all melted. Sauce is looking pretty darn smooth. It's a little bit runny, but I often make my Kraft macaroni and cheese with a fairly runny sauce, so I'm not too worried about it. And the recipe does say it will thicken up as it cools. So I'm going to turn the heat off and just keep stirring this for a little bit. While I cook up some broccoli, we have steamer bags, I'm just going to put some in the microwave. And then I will put some of this in a bowl and do a taste test for you before we sit down and eat dinner. Okay, so the sauce did thicken up really nicely. I'd say it's just about perfect, just as it's coming to an eating temperature. So that's good. I will say the sauce doesn't stick to the noodles the way that box macaroni and cheese sauce does. I don't know if that's because I did something wrong or if it's just not going to happen because they use weird ingredients in box stuff. But that's something that I'd like to look into and see if I can make that happen. If you know how to make the sauce stick to your noodles better, please leave me a comment below. And so now we're just going to try this. It's not my favorite. The sauce is definitely a little grainy, which I don't like. And I have made cheese sauces that were not grainy before. So I'm not sure if it's because of the cooking the pasta in the water, like if the starch makes it grainy, or if it's the way that I added the cheese. I'll have to look into that as well. The flavor, honestly, I think it's because the chicken broth that I used was from just canning chicken, so it wasn't actual chicken broth. And it was like I could smell it. It was very chickeny smelling. And this honestly tastes a little chickeny. So I think that I will make sure to use canned broth, and I'll probably use half broth, half water instead of just, no, I mean, I probably did about half and half. So maybe I'll try using just water, see if that changes the taste. If it doesn't, then we'll go back to using the broth because I really like to use the broth. So maybe I'll try doing it with my canned broth that's not the just straight chicken juice broth once. But so that's my review of this recipe. It's not what I'm looking for, but that's okay. We'll keep working on finding the perfect homemade macaroni and cheese recipe that is just as good as Kraft macaroni and cheese. And let's continue on with our meals for the rest of this week.
For Saturday's dinner, I made baked chicken thighs, but our dog got out of the yard that afternoon, so we spent the evening looking for her instead of eating dinner. But it was almost as good when we ate it for leftovers the next day.
Okay, I'm about to go into the grocery store for the first time during this pantry challenge. We're completely out of eggs and have like half a cup of milk left. I realized that I didn't even think about household goods when we started this pantry challenge, so I'm exempting us from that because we have one roll of toilet paper left. So I will be buying household goods as well, because I just didn't think about it, and I haven't really worked on storing those things yet. So I will be buying milk, eggs, and household goods. So we got a gallon of milk, and then I got a half gallon of whole milk to put in the freezer. We did an experiment last week. I don't know, the last time I went grocery shopping, I bought a half gallon of whole milk and we put it in the freezer, let it freeze solid, and then thawed it in the fridge. And at first, like the day it was completely thawed, it had a horrible aftertaste and just kind of tasted like water. But we left it in the fridge for a couple more days, and in the end it tasted just like regular milk. So we decided that just for emergencies, we're going to keep at least a half gallon of whole milk in the freezer. And if we ever get more freezer space, we might start storing milk there for more regular use, but we'll see. And I bought the 60 count of eggs because apparently there's an egg shortage, and I could have gotten one 18 pack of large eggs, and that would have been a slightly better deal, but I couldn't get two because they were limiting it to just one. Well, not really limiting it. I could have gotten more than one, but I would have paid $2 more for any others that I bought. So I got the 60 count so that I can do some meal prep for breakfasts.
In addition to the milk and eggs, I bought toilet bowl cleaner because we just ran out, and toilet paper because we only had one roll left. It was hard, but I only bought exactly what was on my list, so I think it was a successful grocery run.
And that was week 2 of the three. And that was week 2 of the pantry challenge. I'm realizing that it's not so much about having enough food in our pantry, it's about using the food that we already have. And this week I put together a very simple meal plan, and that helped so much. Next week I'll take you through how I do that process. If you have any suggestions on meal planning, please leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to continue following along with us, please subscribe. I will put a playlist here of all of our pantry challenge videos, and I will put a video here of one of my primary reasons for starting this channel. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time on the Palma Pioneer Pantry.